Hey, give him a game. Who knows, in his rundown slum, chess might just be bottle caps and a flipped toilet lid. The voice sliced through the saxophone's melody like a blade. A few dry laughs followed, sharp, brief, and sank like stones. In the river. Before we jump in, if you believe every story matters, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Outside, New York shimmered in metal and light. The East River glowed like molten steel, rippling with gold squares like a giant chessboard stretched across the city. On the 52nd floor of the glass tower, crystal glasses, Italian marble, and billion-dollar deals floated beneath smiles, thin enough to snap on contact. At the center sat an ebony Staunton chess set on smoked glass. The king stood 8 centimeters tall, carved so clean it looked like a cold monument under the spotlight, flawless, emotionless. Backstage, Marisol Brooks adjusted the collar of her son's shirt. Elijah, 17, tall, slim, jaw still half-drawn like a sketch. His eyes were ink dropped in water. The crooked staff tag covered a cuff tear. This shirt had belonged to a cousin. It fit now, but barely held together. Keep your distance. From the displays, the manager said, voice cold as the martini in his hand, waving a canapé tray like a conductor's baton. Elijah nodded. The lemon scent from the polishing cloth clung to his fingers, sharp, damp, metallic. He shut his eyes for a beat, imagining the cracked wooden table at the community library, the ticking clock, the silence between moves. That was where he'd learned to listen. Evelyn Roth entered like a scripted answer. Black dress, hair in a high bun, scanning the room with barcode precision. The Roth Foundation's Mind Over Matter Gala was a polished pitch for youth programs in the inner city. But the light in her eyes belonged to someone who didn't relinquish control easily. A guest glanced at the chessboard. Beautiful set. But in New York, where do you find a worthy opponent? Another pointed discreetly toward the staff. Elijah had just set down his tray. Why not invite one of the kids? Fits the theme, doesn't it? Evelyn turned. Her eyes locked onto Elijah's. Her smile suggested she already knew the ending. You there? Do you play chess? Elijah paused, catching the intent behind the question. A bit, he said. Perfect, she said, gesturing as if this had been planned. Let's have a friendly match. Polite applause followed. At the edge of the room, Marisol stood stiff, hands clenched inside her gloves. Elijah stepped forward. The spotlight caught the polished black edge of the table. He touched it lightly, a habit, like bowing to an unseen opponent. Evelyn sat at white. Her fingers ran over the king like it was a brooch. White moves first, she said, the friendliness. Carefully measured. A guest whispered, let's hope he knows knights move in an L. Laughter trickled through the air like dust settling on silver. Elijah sat, turned a black pawn, placed it dead center, smooth, precise, practiced. Bishop Grant narrowed his eyes. He'd seen that motion before on live streams, where clocks ticked like heartbeats. Evelyn opened E4. She glanced at the crowd like drawing back a curtain. Elijah answered C5 sharp, clean, without looking up. A few wine glasses paused mid-her. The chess-savvy smiled. Sicilian defense. Impressive, Evelyn murmured like complimenting a well-trained dog. She played NF3. Elijah responded, D6. Then NC6. His black pieces moved like a string quartet, tuning for a symphony he already knew. The clink of silverware faded. Marisol heard her own heels tapping, measured, dry, like grains in an hourglass. Outside, she held calm. Inside, tides churned. Evelyn leaned in, voice loud enough to carry. Here's the deal. If you manage to throw me off once, I'll add 10 scholarships tonight. A glass touched down on porcelain, thin, brittle, like sugar glass cracking. Elijah looked up. smiled faintly without meeting her eyes. Then I'll try to throw you off. More than once, the room stirred. A silver-haired man leaned in. This kid's got blitz rhythm. Evelyn played B2. Elijah replied with G6, opening new terrain. A young reporter raised her phone, hands trembling. Bishop Grant sat down, his glass brow tightening. Elijah's mind flicked back. The library's chip table, broken heater, fingerless gloves, and the Kasparov-Topalov game he knew by heart. Afterward, he'd help his mother drag garbage bags across frozen pavement. The smell of old paper and bleach still lived in his skin. Evelyn nudged H3, the kind of move made by someone who prefers safe zones. Elijah castled, letting the tension stretch like drawn string. A pawn sacrifice followed, quiet, natural, but it cracked open a lane only seen by those who waited. Evelyn frowned. Overhead, the hum of small talk thinned like peeling paint. By move 15, even the casual watchers sensed it. Black was leading. Not by tricks, but by claiming space with such calm certainty, it felt preordained. Where did you learn? Evelyn asked, trying to reclaim her role. Queen's Library. And some beat-up boards at Santa Marta, Elijah said. I studied notations, played adults when they let me. No coach? He shook his head. The next move landed like a signature. On a contract already signed, the crowd's gaze shifted, mockery fading into interest. A glass was lowered, a phone put away. At the edge, Marisol subtly shifted her stance. Her hand clenched, released like scrubbing a stubborn stain. Evelyn pushed D5. Elijah responded, X5, then NB4. A trap not for the skilled, but for the sure of themselves. Move 22. A fork appeared. The silver-haired man coughed, barely. A sound. Evelyn stared past Elijah, into the glass behind him. In it, two reflections flickered, the player and the watched. The blur between them was pride. Elijah, she asked, voice low, do you know who you're playing? Yes, he said. The one funding us? His tone was smooth, still, like water poured without pause. A soft humph slipped from a woman twisting a diamond ring. She leaned toward her neighbor, just loud enough for Marisol to hear. Typical youth, bold in their naivety. On the board, Evelyn traded queens, aiming to pivot into a clean endgame. Elijah declined. He kept the tension taut, like an MC holding the drop before a commercial. Bishop Grant leaned in, long arm nudging a champagne flute. The soft ting turned heads. At the door, Lila, a curly-haired server, stood with an empty tray. She glanced at the board, not understanding the moves, but understanding posture. Elijah sat like the chair had been waiting for him. She remembered their break-room nights. Him, always reading a battered book, never checking his phone. Evelyn played B7. Her hand trembled, barely, but enough for a lawyer nearby to catch it. He knew the sign. This was when opponents start to crack. Elijah brought in a bishop, opened a file. A white piece was caught, stranded like a commuter on the wrong train. Whispers along the walls changed color. From, can he even play? To, is someone filming this? To, who is he? It felt like the river wind had shifted, curling inward to the heart of the room. Our eyes, OL, heard it all, but her eyes stayed locked on the board. She remembered Elijah at 12, building full. Sets from broken pieces on a cold floor. The only light then was a melting vanilla candle, its scent mixed with bleach. Evelyn tried to fight back, but her moves were umbrellas in a storm. Elijah casually sacrificed the central pawn. To most, it looked careless. To Bishop Grant, it was surgical. My God, he whispered, recognizing the shape of a game that would allow no edits. In the corner, The saxophone paused mid-note. The musician folded his arms, watching. "That boy," he told the sound tech, "is leading. Move 29. Double check." Evelyn sat straighter, chin lifted like she was back in front of a lens. "We're playing for scholarships," she said, reminding everyone or herself. "I know," Elijah said. His next move looked harmless, until it made a white piece block its own king. Someone exhaled hard. A glass slipped. Red wine spilled on white linen, a crimson blot in a snow-white room. A news cameraman arrived late, raising his rig. He didn't know he just caught the turning point. Move 33. Evelyn traded rooks. Elijah's knight sprang like a trap. 3 moves later. Check, check, mate, silence. Not polite, waited. A stone dropped in every chest, but it landed hardest on Evelyn's black dress. Elijah didn't smile. He touched the black king, bowed slightly. "Thank you for the game." Evelyn dragged a fingernail along the wood, the sound a needle on vinyl. She gave a dry laugh. "Interesting." And when she looked up, she saw eyes that had never truly seen her, until now. And what they saw. Disagreed. Bishop Grant stepped forward. "What's your name?" "Elijah Brooks, sir." "You still in school?" "Yes, and I work nights." A cameraman caught their handshake. No posing, no show. Just something solid, like varnish on aged wood. Whispers rose. "Did someone get this on video? If this hits the internet?" Marisol peeled off her gloves, stepped forward, then stopped. A reflex learned from years of standing outside the lines. Grant turned to Evelyn. "The scholarships?" She smiled, lifted the mic. "We'll triple them tonight." Applause followed, soft as mist. Not a drop touched Elijah. He knew. That part wasn't his. What was his? The squares just walked. And the story, already leaving the room faster than the lights could follow. Elijah looked for his mother. Marisol stood tall, eyes catching the warm gold of the chandeliers. "Let's go home," she said as he passed. "You've got the morning shift." "Yes, ma'am." They stepped into the elevator. The glass doors closed, reflecting the gala. One last time, the crystal, the crowd, and a bored, now quiet Dot as the lift descended. Elijah's heart sank a fraction, not out of fear, but from knowing nothing would stand still now. At ground level, the river wind hit his face, sharp and salty. He shoved his hands into his coat and found a card someone had slipped in. Queen's Public Television. On the back, "Call me. Your story matters." He smiled faintly. On the wet sidewalk, the streetlights fractured into glowing squares, like another chessboard, stretching toward the horizon. Put yourself in their shoes. What would you do now? Hit subscribe. Leave a comment below. * New York woke with screeching bus brakes, steam, rising from coffee cups, and heels tapping wet sidewalks. In a third-floor apartment in Jackson Heights, sunlight slid thin curtains, striping a scratched wooden table. Marisol set a lunchbox on the counter. Brown rice, pan-seared chicken, 2 foil-wrapped orange slices. A meal packed like a chess piece, waiting its square. Elijah rinsed his hands under cold water. His phone buzzed, the 11th time since 6 a.m. notifications stacked up. Local news ping. Email from Queen's Public Television. A message. "We loved what you did. Are you open to telling your story?" Dana, East Side Post. Others followed. Applause emojis. An invite from Queen's Chess Club. A text from Pastor Luis. "Saw you. Last night was beautiful." Stay on the straight path. Marisol slid over a bowl of scallion-fried eggs with soy sauce. "Eat first." Elijah took a bite. The flavor, scallions, and slightly burnt oil pulled him back to the Santa Marta Church. Kitchen, where she stacked food boxes, and he snuck off to read frayed chess books. You don't need to post anything this morning, she said. Her voice was warm, like tea in a clay cup. Let others talk. They're messaging a lot. Let them watch. You place the next piece, then decide. She laid a thick business card on the table. Roth Foundation, Evelyn Roth on the young. Back, sharp handwriting. Let's talk. 3 p.m., 52nd floor. What do you think? Go, Marisol said. But don't trade your name for praise. If they need a handshake to clean up, fine, offer your hand. But keep your arm. At 9:30, the Queen's Library opened. The scent of old pages and plastic covers hit Elijah like home. Mr. Grady, the librarian in a knit cap, was labeling books. Our basketball star returns. I play chess, Elijah smiled. Only difference is the ball. Grady handed over a stack, scholarship forms, college prep lists, and an email from City Honors. If Elijah Brooks submits a placement test, we're prepared to offer full tuition. You played very clean last night, Grady said, not looking. Too long, as if not to make it a big deal. No flash. Just tightened every knot. I got to sit here, Elijah replied, so I could play like that. Grady slid over a beat-up copy of my great predecessors. Return it whenever, and be ready by 3. Whole city's watching now. At 3, the elevator carried Elijah back to the 52nd floor. The scent of white flowers and upscale disinfectant hit him like a front. Evelyn waited in a glass-walled conference room. A table for 20. Only 2 chairs. Afternoon light slashed diagonally across it, like a bishop's. Move. Last night went further than I expected, she said. I want to make it right. For whom? Elijah asked. For the kids my program's meant to serve, and ... for myself. She spoke of her father, of underestimating people, and how she'd betrayed that lesson in front of hundreds. I'm sorry. I don't need an apology, Elijah said. Just do right by others. Evelyn nodded. I want to create a scholarship in your name, and ... Tomorrow, I'd like you on air with me. Unscripted. We'll talk chess and opportunity. I'll own my mistake. You don't have to agree. I'll go, Elijah said, but let's set terms. Don't call us inspiring stories. Call us students. And don't call your actions generosity. Call them responsibility. Agreed. As he reached the door, she called after him. Play me again. No audience. Friday night. Queen's Library. Table 3. The chair wobbles. Evelyn laughed. See you there. The news spread faster than the subway. That night, the local station led with a 15-second clip. Elijah's double attack in slow motion. The host said, a charity gala turned into a lesson in humility and talent. Comments poured in like warm rain got at home. Elijah sat in a small living room, the cheap rug still faintly smelling of dry cleaning. Marisol folded a white uniform on her lap, neat like a letter. On the TV, the anchor teased, tomorrow at 5, Elijah Brooks and philanthropist Evelyn Roth in an exclusive conversation on opportunity and respect. Marisol switched it off. If they ask things they don't really want answered, she said, just place a blocking move. Elijah smiled. You're speaking chess, Mom. Chess taught me, from you. She smoothed his hair. He thought he'd outgrown the gesture. Tonight, he let it stay. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Tomorrow, wear a story you believe in. Dana. He checked the profile photo. A black woman, bright-eyed. A reporter for the East Side Post. He replied, I'll wear my library card. What will you say? Marisol asked. Elijah looked out the window. Streetlights blurred across puddles. Neon signs fractured like shattered glass. I'll say the chessboard is where people speak less and respect more. And that we need boards in schools, not on. The 52nd floor. Marisol nodded. Say little. Say enough. The next day, the TV studio buzzed like a giant toolbox. Black cables snaked across the floor. AC blew cold, directionless air. Elijah sat under the makeup lights. A man dabbed powder on his forehead and joked, "We'll help with that TV sweat." Evelyn arrived soon after. Her makeup was as light as she'd promised herself. Lena Cruz, cropped hair, sharp eyes, came to greet them. "No script," she said, "but I'll ask directly." "Ask directly," Elijah replied. The red light blinked. Intro music faded. Lena leaned forward. "Elijah, when someone invites you to the chessboard is a joke. What's the first thing that comes to mind?" Elijah didn't look at the camera. He looked into the space between the lenses, where he imagined the eyes of the church kids. "I thought of our plastic board, missing 2 pawns," he said. "And I thought if they had an ebony board up there, I'd place the same pieces on both." Lena turned to Evelyn. "Evelyn, that night, I was wrong," Evelyn said, cutting in. "Not for losing. For inviting a kid as a prop." She turned to Elijah. "You didn't just beat a player. You beat a pattern. One our class repeats. Too easily." Lena let the silence breathe. On social media, comments exploded. At Queen's Library, Mr. Grady turned the volume up. At church, Pastor Lease looked up, waiting for the next line like a chorus returning. "Let's talk about what's next," Lena said. Beyond apologies and applause, Evelyn straightened. She skipped the polished answer in her head. "We'll open a chess room in Elijah's neighborhood within 3 months, funded by me. Elijah decides the tables, the hours, the rules. And the program will train leaders, not just leave boards and take pictures." Lena raised an eyebrow. "And if the deadline slips?" "He'll call you," Elijah said, a slight smile forming. "And the whole city will call you." The studio laughed, the kind that lightens a room without softening the truth. Later, Lena brought out a travel board. 3-minute blitz. She said, placing it on the anchor desk dot. The tone shifted. The lights felt warmer. Evelyn played E4. Elijah responded C5. Again. Lena grinned. "Some things are worth relearning," Evelyn said with a wink. 3 minutes passed quickly. But enough. Evelyn no longer played to win the room. She played to learn. She gave up pieces wisely, defended with intent, and sacrificed for initiative. Elijah stayed quick, clean, and quiet. No dramatics. At the end, instead of chasing a flashy finish, he simplified into a clean endgame. The clock hit 0. Elijah won by half a second. The camera caught them both smiling. Not in victory, but recognition. Like sparring partners who now saw each other clearly. Backstage, Lena shook their hands. "That clip'll run all week." Outside, Dana waited, recorder in hand, smile ready. "You really wore your library card," she said, eyeing the green lanyard on Elijah's neck. 10 minutes? 20, Elijah said. "But better at the library." "See you there," Dana smiled. Evelyn waited until he finished speaking, then said quietly, "Tomorrow night, table 3. "I'll bring the clock," Elijah replied. Dana's piece dropped the next morning. Headline: A room where silence wasn't a trap. No hype, no boy genius beats heiress. Just lived details. A chipped night, a broken hinge, orange slices in foil, Mr. Grady, Marisol. Dragging a trash bin across iced out, the comments hit differently. "My school has a library like that. Where can I get a chess set? I teach math. I want to start a club." Not praise. Not outrage. Action. That afternoon, Pastor Lois opened the rec room. The churchyard was full of kids with plastic pieces. "Busy night," he smiled. Adding chairs. Inside, Elijah taped board corners down. "Rule 1, he said. Don't help someone by yelling advice. Rule 2. Lose, then clear the board. Rule 3. Drink water. Laughter broke out. Marisol circled the room with cups. Her eyes were soft. Midway through, the door opened. Evelyn stepped in. No black dress, no diamonds. Just a gray sweater and tied-back hair. She froze when the gosi. Kids looked up. Elijah gestured. This is Miss Evelyn. She's here to learn. They returned to their games. He pointed her to the wobbly chair at table 3. Mr. Grady arrived late, cap still on. Who's this? He whispered. A learner. Elijah said. They played through chatter and silence. The room felt like late-night jazz. Fast notes from kids, deeper ones from grown gash-ups. Evelyn moved differently now. She timed things. Let go of pride. Listened. Elijah trapped her once, twice, but left the door open each time. The game ended with a simple check. Evelyn sighed, laid down her king. Thank you, she said. Next time I won't push that edge pawn so early. No one makes headlines for an edge pawn, Elijah grinned. They laughed. Pastor Luis, watching, murmured, the first brick. Rain fell gently as Evelyn left. On Mr. Grady's desk, a slim envelope. Inside, chess room forms, funding, an order for 10 Staunton sets, and a storage cabinet. No name, Grady noted. Doesn't need one. Elijah said. At home. Marisol opened the door, hands smelling of soap, back aching. Elijah leaned his forehead to hers, a gesture from childhood. I think we just placed our first piece, he said. Place it, Marisol whispered. This game's going to be long. Elijah opened the window. Rain crept in, along with distant sirens and laughter in the street. He thought of tomorrow. School, work, library, emails, Dana's article, Lena's clip. An open invite from City Honors to compete this weekend. Unplayed moves. Unnamed positions. But one thing was clear, as clear as the kitchen. Light hitting the white square on the table. From the moment he placed the first black piece across from Evelyn Roth, his life stopped counting in elevator floors. It started. Counting by position. Where he stood. Where he sat. When he stayed silent. When he spoke. And by the people who stood with him. Somewhere above. A plane split the clouds. A white thread across dark sky. Elijah watched it, then turned off the light. In the dark, he traced the edge of the table, like the border of a bigger board. The real game had begun. And somewhere, a hand had already moved the first piece. Now it's your move. Subscribe and tell us in the comments. What would you do next? Asterisk. The November sky over New York was so clear, it looked like someone had rinsed it in glass and held it up to dry. At the Queen's Library, sunlight cut through dusty panes, casting golden ribbons over table 3, like threads stitching. Something old back together. Elijah leaned low, polishing each square of the board with a soft cloth. Each square felt like a story, one he had to clean before telling again. The air smelled of damp wood and old ink. Time left too long in a quiet room. Behind him, Mr. Grady spoke. Getting ready for the tournament? I haven't signed. Up yet? Elijah said, squinting into the light. You have now. Grady pulled a thick envelope from his coat. No flourish, just certainty. Inside, a letter from U.S. Chess NYC. We invite Elijah Brooks to compete at the Manhattan Open, November 14th to 15th. At the corner, a blue signature still bleeding slightly, like it had just dried. Elijah stared until the words blurred and only the weight remained. This is ... bigger than any board I've sat at. Then go sit, Grady said, but don't play for the gala. Play for the board's missing pawns back at the church. Asterisk. That afternoon, Elijah called home. Marisol paused, silent for a beat. Like weighing a move, You want to go? I do. Then go. But get decent shoes. Your heels are worn out. I'm fine. You're not, she cut in, her voice firm like a rook centerboard. On the board, everyone's equal. But they'll look at your shoes before your eyes. Don't give them an excuse. Asterisk opening day at the Hilton Midtown buzzed like a hive. Deep red carpet pulled the eye down every corridor. Chandeliers scattered light like glitter no one dared. Sweep. Signs gleamed on metal stands. Manhattan opened Ballroom A, and B. Elijah stepped through the glass doors. His heart ticked like a timer clock. Evelyn stood near check-in. Gray blazer, no jewelry, just clear eyes. I'm here to watch, she said. Not to lead, but I'll be outside if you need. You ever played here? Elijah asked. When? I was 18. Lost in round 2. And you? Never stepped into a room with this many boards. Inside, a sea of white-clothed boards, glossy Staunton pieces polished by time and sweat. Over 100 players, slouched teens, silver-bearded veterans, bowed in silence. No applause. Just the soft clicks of clocks and pieces touching wood, like pens signing invisible contracts. His nameplate read, Rooks, Elijah, unrated. Opponent, S. Copper, Fidemaster, 2,314, middle-aged, crisp shirt, dark eyes, no smile. Good luck. You too. Capper opened E4. Elijah replied, C5, Sicilian defense. The gala flickered in his mind and vanished. This was different. Capper played like a machine. No condescension, no mercy. Every move a test dot by move 18. Capper sacrificed a knight. Clean and sharp. A trap. Elijah didn't bite. He remembered this pattern, a Kramnik-Topalov game, and steered clear. The board opened. Elijah took control. Capper slowed down. Move 31. Capper offered a draw. Elijah checked the clock to 7 minutes each. I'll play on. 5 minutes later, Capper laid down his king. No cheers. Just Elijah's pulse, thundering like a drumline. Asterisk day 1. 2 wins, 1 draw. Word spread like spilled coffee. An unrated. Kid is climbing the leaderboard. Dana messaged, the Manhattan Open is turning into a sequel. Evelyn warned, keep your eyes on the board, not the headlines. Elijah replied to both, understood. Asterisk day 2. Elijah faced GM Alexei Durov, silver-haired, tall, Russian, the man who punishes every weak move. Durov opened with D4. Elijah replied NF6, Indian defense. A slow strategic battle began. Each move landed like water tapping. Stillness by the door. Marisol held her son's coat. Her gaze steady, deep. Mid-game, Durov baited a pawn. Elijah shifted play across the board. A move pulled from a Petrosian classic. On move 42, Elijah had a passed pawn. Durov's king was boxed in. Move 48, the king tipped. Applause broke the hall's silence. Durov shook his hand. You have. Old soul on the board, Elijah smiled. And a lot to learn. Final standing, 3rd place. For an unrated player, a shock. Media swarmed. But what stayed with Elijah wasn't the $5,000 check or the junior closed invitation. It was walking. Into the cold, folding board underarm, Evelyn beside him. Both silent. Behind them, Dana snapped a photo of their backs disappearing into city blur. Caption, from Queens to Manhattan and back again. In the hotel locker room, Elijah unpacked his board. Tucked between match sheets, a thin envelope. No name. Typed note, the opponent you just beat wasn't the most dangerous in this tournament. Morning in New York arrived taut and cold, sky pale gray, puddles on the street like dusty mirrors. In the small kitchen, Warm yellow light glowed over the table, where Marisol had placed a lunchbox and a plane ticket in a plastic sleeve. U.S. Junior. Closed Championship. St. Louis? The bold print stood out like a lone white square on a crowded board. Need to bring anything else? Marisol asked, eyes quietly reading his face. Elijah smiled, voice low, like naming a lucky charm. I'm bringing my library card. A knock. Evelyn stepped in. No driver, no entourage. Just a small suitcase and a real smile. I got the aisle seat, she said. I hate being pinned to the window. Elijah shrugged. Window seats are for cloud watchers. Then you sit there, she said. St. Louis greeted them with a steel gray sky and the gateway arch rising like a giant knight guarding the city. At the chess club and scholastic center. The junior closed sign gleamed like polished wood. Inside, teens eyed each other like generals pre-match. Private school crests, leather shoes, shiny watches, chess pieces in armor. Elijah wore new shoes from a discount store, soles still smelling of glue. Around his neck, his green library card cracked at the corner like lightning on glass. A tournament official noticed and smiled. Every player's got a lucky charm. Elijah nodded. Mine's a room where books can be borrowed. The tournament. Hall was cold as a walk-in freezer. Fluorescent lights lit every board evenly, like rules. No favoritism. Marisol sat in the back, hands clasped, fingertips rubbing gently, as if scrubbing something invisible. Dana waited in the press area, recorder still. Evelyn leaned against the wall, arms folded, ready to step back if needed. Round 1. Opponent, Marcus Hawley, navy blazer, Ravenhill prep crest. His handshake felt like a nail driven in. Good luck. Same to you. Marcus opened with E4, direct, classic. Elijah answered with C5, Sicilian defense. Indirect, unpredictable. No. Small talk. Just rhythm. Marcus played by the book. Solid, steady. Elijah didn't need one. He carried the road in memory. Mid-game, Marcus pushed D5, a bold stab. Elijah blocked, rerouted a knight. The ref passed, muttering, Queen's boy knows his way. 3 hours in, Elijah had a pawn edge. Marcus offered. A draw, barely audible. Elijah shook his head. He pushed forward, slow, steady, like rolling a heavy cart past the line. Marcus laid down his king. Good game, he murmured. He next rounds. Wins, draws. After each, Elijah logged moves like entries in a war journal. Focused, precise. Day 2, noon. A message from Dana. Someone called you Ralph's PR product. Attached, an article titled A Board of Goodwill and lenses. It stung. Words like staged, prop, image cleanup. They called him a symbol. Evelyn a lens. Marisol an apron. Evelyn read it in silence. Her expression didn't crack, but her hands shifted. Quiet guilt. Dana asked, Want to respond? Evelyn shook her head. I'll fix it in real life. Let him handle the words. That night, 3 boxes arrived at Queen's Library. New chessboards. Lockers installed. Schedule posted. Pastor Luis sent a photo. Kids scribbling names on every board. His message. This is the real PR. Penultimate round. Elijah faced Theo Mercer. Top seed, calm. Each hand placed like he already knew the future. They locked into a King's Indian. A center wall rising, each side waiting for cracks. Elijah pushed a quiet pawn on the queen side. Simple, but enough to shake Theo's tempo. Result. Draw. As they shook hands. Theo nodded at Elijah's library card. Cool tag. Thanks. My dad says the library was his first coach. Mine. 2. Night before the final. Hotel silent as a closed book. Evelyn stood at the window, city lights stretching like a frozen chessboard. She drafted a message to Elijah. Win or lose, Queens keeps moving. That's the long game. Then deleted it. No need to say it. Final. Round. Again. Theo. Winner takes the title. The hall didn't buzz. It focused. Every glance could count squares. Theo opened E4. Elijah paused, breathed deep, remembering who he played for. Then played C5. Najdorf Sicilian. Chaotic, sharp, like Queen's alleyways. They matched move for move. Riders waiting for one to slip. Theo attacked the king side. Elijah built a fortress on the queen side. Move 43. Elijah played B3, quiet, precise, like sliding a bolt into place. From there, the board tilted. The end came without flash. 2 clean moves. Theo extended his hand. You got it. Elijah bowed his head to the table. A silent thank you. Applause rose, full, warm like rain on a church roof. The trophy changed hands. Marisol cried. Evelyn stayed just outside the frame. Theo walked over, took off his school badge. 4. The library wall, he said. Elijah nodded. There'll be a schedule up there. The kids will get it. Donna snapped a photo under the arch, their shadows slanting like crossing bishop lines. 1 month later, Jackson Heights smelled of fried grease, black coffee, and new wood. No ribbon. No ceremony. Just a handwritten sign. Queen's Chess Room. Open today inside. 10 Staunton sets. Locker cabinet. House rules pinned to the wall in wobbly kid handwriting. Stay quiet so others can think. If you lose, clear the board. If you win, teach. Anyone can play. Just place your piece with your whole hand. At the door, Pastor Louise smiled as a mother asked, Do you take 7-year-olds? Of course, he said. 7's the age they move without asking. Here, we teach them to ask, then move. Evelyn arrived, arms full, volunteer sign-ups, coach rosters. Her hair down, soft. No gala gloss. Her eyes paused at a photo. On the wall, table 3. Its edge scratched. Chair still wobbly. Asterisk below it, a caption. Here, silence is respect. Mr. Grady walked by, his aged hand brushing each tabletop as if greeting old friends. Marisol handed a set of keys to a kid on duty, then tugged his scarf straight, a mother's reflex. The kids buzzed like a hive, but when Elijah placed a life-and-death puzzle on the board, the room's volume dropped like someone turned a knob. He explained, his voice low, broken just enough to spark imagination. Look wide first. Count breathing room later. Sacrifice when needed. Don't hold on to something just because of pride. A girl with braided hair raised her hand. If someone teases me, what do I sacrifice? Elijah smiled, warm-eyed. You sacrifice. The reply, don't answer. Just make your move. The whole room laughed, then fell quiet again, heads bending toward the board, like it was a garden path everyone wanted to walk. Evelyn sat at table 3, across from a 4th grader. She lost again. On the 3rd game, she smiled, exhaled, learning to let go of things not worth holding. With every game, she moved further from the version of herself that hosted the gala. Not for PR, for freedom. Dana's piece about the chess room spread slowly but surely, like vines wrapping a brick fence. No clickbait, no drama, just the address, opening hours, phone number, and how to donate. Lena produced a follow-up segment. Shots of small hands placing pieces right in the center square. Marisol handing over the keys. Pastor Luis crossing out board loan names. Marisol was promoted to cleaning supervisor at the hotel. Higher pay. Flexible hours. When she received her new health insurance card, she held it like a precious photo. Who do you think this reward is for? She asked. Elijah shrugged. For the ones not in the photo. Yes, she said, and for the library card. One evening, just before closing, Evelyn stood before the photo of table 3. One day, I'll invite you back to the 52nd floor, she said, her voice no longer edged like glass. Not to play for cameras, but so the tables up there understand how the pieces are placed down here. Elijah nodded. As long as the silence up there means respect, not traps. Evelyn smiled. We'll teach them the difference. Elijah stepped out to the porch, looking over Jackson Heights at night. The grocery sign sparkled like a gleaming queen. A delivery bike swerved like a knight rounding a corner. The streetlights lined up like bishop diagonals. This city was an open board, owned by no one. Whoever made the cleanest move won the day. He opened his phone. An email from St. Louis. U.S. Championship. No more junior. He took a screenshot and sent it to his mom, to Mr. Grady, to Pastor Lise, to Evelyn, to Dana, to Lena. Each replied with a symbol. A thumbs up, a chessboard, a book, an unlocked padlock, a microphone. Little metaphors, enough for them to understand each other without needing to explain. On the library table, the championship trophy didn't sit at the center. It rested in the corner, leaving space for 10 new Staunton sets, a sign-up book that thickened each week, and a tilted certificate. The chess room served 2,000 students in 45 days. The number didn't glow, but every kid who walked in saw it. Elijah looked at his library card and Theo's Ravenhill badge side by side. 2 small objects, 2 worlds that had stopped assigning roles. He tucked them both into his pocket. Not to show off. To remember. Before turning off the lights, he sent Dana one line, asking her to place it at the end of any piece. The part people usually skip. If you want to help, find your nearest library. Go there, make a move. Don't speak loudly. The room dimmed, darkness warm as a palm. Outside, the city glowed like a spaceship landing pad. Inside, only the imagined sound of a chess piece landing clean in the center square remained. And if one day someone were to ask him, half curious, half sarcastic, what to do to get back at those who once looked down on him, Elijah wouldn't answer right away. He'd hold their gaze for a beat, as if recalling all the cold rooms, missing pieces, and glances that passed through him like air. Then he'd smile, the kind that proves nothing, and say, no need to drag anyone into the mud. Just build. A tower tall enough and solid enough that cheap talk fades in the wind before it can ever reach you. Evelyn once invited him as a side act. Now, he was no longer an act. He was a point of orientation. And that difference between an accessory and a compass doesn't just decide who wins a game. It decides who wins a life. Thanks for watching. If you think stories like this can change perspectives, click subscribe so you won't miss the next one.